Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Liam Dann, New Zealand Herald Business Editor at Large. This is a podcast where we talk to New Zealanders about money and how it has shaped their lives. We're not going to tell you how to get rich. We're not going to pick the next interest rate move. But we are going to get you thinking about your relationship with money and what it really means to you. With me today I have Renata Blair, who is Head of Māori Business at the BNZ. Kia ora, Renata.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
Thanks for being here. Can I kick off with the question I like to ask people in this podcast, which is, do you remember the first time you ever held money in your hand?
Yes. Yep. I distinctly remember working in the veggie gardens, and we're picking squash, and I remember that I got this pay packet, a brown envelope, and it had how many hours I'd worked and the hourly rate and all the cash jingling inside.
How old were you when you started working, do you think?
I think I might have been 10.
10. Yeah. So that would be pretty exciting, having a bit of money in your pocket. Did you have things you wanted to spend it on at that age?
Oh, yes, absolutely. At 10, there would have been plenty of lollies bought at that time.
Yeah. Trip down to the dairy.
Yes.
Yeah. But it sounds like your parents had you out there working because they wanted to instill something around the value of money. Yeah,
Mum and Dad were very hardworking, so, Dad would always be up really early and come home late, so, that was, you kind of learnt by observing and osmosis, really, and that kind of got ingrained to you to work hard for money, and that was instilled at us at an early age.
Sure. And can you tell me a little bit about your family? Because the Blair family is well known. Your brother Narimu has been a high-profile politician, head of the Ngāti Whātua Aoraki Trust Board. What's sort of the secret of success there, I guess?
Yeah, I think, that work ethic's strong within our family. We grew up in a rural town. We're always pushed into leadership roles, or it came naturally, and seeing Mum and Dad play those leadership roles in the marae or the community was something that we'd always observed at a young age. So, we quickly got on. If you worked hard, that success wasn't by luck; it was by working hard.
Yeah, I mean, was money a big thing in the household growing up? Does it?
Yeah, it wasn't really spoken of. It was spoken of when we didn't have any.
Yeah.
When we didn't have money, it was quite a trying time for the family. You'd hear a bit of concern from your parents. Where they're going to get the next pay packet from. So we weren't really taught about money. We just knew that we worked hard, you'd get money, and it felt like you had to work hard to get money. So back in those days.
Yeah. I mean, you and your brother have been very successful. Were your parents sort of, sounds like there wasn't a lot of money. Were they just focused on education?
Dad was a teacher. So we did have, we came from a kind of a pretty modest, but we had a good income from Dad. But when they split up, obviously, Dad looked after us as kids, and down to a single parent income would have been hard, so we had to clean the school every morning and after school, and we all had part-time jobs.
Yeah.
So we definitely knew if you accumulated money, you could buy assets and or house or clothes or cars. So we had a really good, strong work ethic from Mum and Dad on that. And I guess that's still ingrained in us. I mean, there's nothing like lifting hay for all day.
Yeah.
So coming into kind of where I ran my own business, those work ethic and earning money was correlated. There's a correlation there.
Yeah. And because Helensville would have been pretty almost rural in those days? Or?
Oh, yeah, there was only a few thousand people back then.
Yeah.
And everybody knew who you were, and it was a town based on, farming. There's the dairy factory. Mum used to work a lot for the community on community projects, especially with the marae.
Yeah.
Dad being at school, being the high school teacher. It was a tiny school. If I walked downtown, everybody somehow, by the time I got home, someone would have told Dad I'd been downtown.
Yeah. And were you involved on the marae?
From an early age, Mum and Dad were, Dad's not Māori, but he got into he loved the Māori culture. Yeah. So he met, beautiful princess from Helensville, Ngāti Whātua.
Yeah.
And, we were always involved at the marae. Dad was, he's right into kapahaka and mum as well, so we were always involved at the 5 marae around the South Kaipara area, and then
Was he? I mean, so he's Pākehā.
Yep.
Was that a bit unusual in those days to get that involved? I mean, I know there's been a bit of a renaissance, but
hugely unusual. 1970s, early 80s, for a guy born in Greymouth and grew up in Palmerston North to move and then get fully involved. Like he spoke Māori. He named all us kids. When Mum wanted to name us English names, he said, "No, I'm naming all my kids Māori names." So, we just thought it was normal. Yeah. Like, he'd put down hangis all the time, carving, and so he got right into. And Mum obviously was, she was the star of our eyes. She kapahaka, spoke a bit of Māori, but we're very active on the marae at a very young age.
Yeah, and even that name thing is quite interesting because often, particularly of that generation, Māori people had kids and they wanted their kids to get on in the Pākehā world, so had to make a call, and so not necessarily an easy one.
No, it wasn't easy even being named Māori in the 70s. People would wouldn't pronounce your name properly. You'd be embarrassed, within a mainstream school, of people going, "Oh, what's your name?" And my name's, I thought, was relatively easy.
Yeah.
But Mum would always go in and tell the teachers off for mispronouncing my name. So for Dad, very brave. He was right at the forefront of change, and he could, he's very proud of his kids. So, we kind of grew up in that era where we just thought it was normal with Dad, but it was very unusual when other people said, "Oh, your dad's Pākehā, what's he doing?" Yeah. Doing kapahaka and stuff like that. Yeah.
And did they, instill in you? I guess when you started earning a little bit of money and pocket money, did you think about saving it, or I guess most kids have got something they want to buy. Yeah,
we always had like literally a piggy bank in your room, and you're kind of putting in change every now and then. I remember Mum opening up a bank account at the post office, and you had it written in your book, and you take your book down and withdraw your money. So there was always a thing that we'd save to buy stuff that you liked. So we'd I distinctly remember some that you could have to spend, and sometimes you'd spend too much, which meant that you couldn't buy things for a little while. So but we always worked hard as kids. We'd always have part-time jobs to buy stuff.
And so you went into business. Did you feel like you were sort of destined for that? Did you have inspiration to go and do that? Because my folks are teachers, and business wasn't a natural thing. They weren't sort of thinking always entrepreneurially.
Well, I actually went to teaching first, and then for 4 years, and then I quickly kind of thought that was a lot harder earned money, so I thought getting into something else.
Yeah, that's right.
So I went and kind of retrained, and then moved into the corporate world and ran kind of corporate events and marketing for AUT, and then I decided to go out on my own. And Mum will say I never really liked people telling me what to do, so I just kind of carve
work for yourself.
Work for yourself, and you learn by your success and your mistakes. So I ran my own company for 12 years, just running some big events during Rugby World Cup days and also America's Cup. And then, once the Spark Arena was built, I got involved in running shows and things down there, and it quickly learnt that I enjoyed business. I loved carving my own way, being your own boss, and paying people out of your own bank account. It was pretty bold.
Making things happen, I guess, is one of the big things that, that kind of job. I guess because the question is, was money a motivator for, obviously teaching isn't going to make you rich. I
remember a guy, when I first set my company up, it was to do with consultancy for education and run small events. And he said, look, Ren, you can do this. And you can always go back to full-time work if you wanted to. So there wasn't, to me, that took the risk out of it. So I thought, I'm going to have a real go at this. And I had a job. I remember someone saying to me that if you could earn a certain amount, which wasn't a huge amount, you'd be in the top 5% of Māori earners in the country.
Yeah.
So that was a goal of mine, was to reach that amount and then move a bit further. And then it kind of, equally we always had this community spirit in us. So you'd always also balance that with making sure you're involved in your community and your marae.
Yeah.
That's always been a constant with mum and dad, role modelling that to us.
Yeah. So in this role you've taken with BNZ, is there an element of that? Because you've obviously opted to come back to working for someone, but there must be some big goals that you've got in front of you here.
Yeah, the bank's always been I've been on the Ngāti Whātua Rākei Trust now for 7 years. This is my 8th year. And, obviously it's a successful organisation commercially. But we never really understood the bank and how it operates. And then the bank never really understands what iwi and Māori are. So, mum and dad have always, I've always thought, how do we be a bridge between both?
Yeah.
The banking world and the iwi world, and how if we could bring both together, then both could be successful. So if this is the role, is to, banks haven't always been good working with Māori, and Māori equally don't know how a bank operates. So I thought I'd bring both together. Yeah.
And I was looking at the role. There was 4 sort of phrases or terms that you were using as a sort of building block, and I wonder if I could run through those. So the one I didn't really know those words together, whānau natanga.
Whanaungatanga?
Yeah. It's not so good at saying it fast.
That's all good, Liam.
Yeah. Manaakitanga, whairawa, and kaitiakitanga. So a couple of those I know, and a couple of those I don't. But how do they work in the banking context?
Yeah, well, I've been always a big fan of teams.
Yep.
So I've always led teams as a captain or a vice captain, or in my family, my brother's very successful, but I'm the captain of our family, basically.
You're the eldest, right?
Yeah, I'm the eldest. So, you take on different responsibilities. So whanaungatanga is about how do you bring teams together and get the best out of a team.
Yep.
And the leader usually makes decisions based on the family, and their views, rather than being a kind of an autocratic person saying this is how things are going to go. So whanaungatanga is about, in its basic sense, is about how you gel together as a family. And the family at the bank is how do we unify the bank to understand Māori more so that they can be more successful in their economic aspirations.
Sure.
So that hasn't always been very clear. So as a bank, if we can become more of a family and understand the other families, which are tribes and iwi, then we think we can make a big difference. Manaakitanga is about how you care for people, genuinely care, how you connect, how you look after, you open your doors, you put on a beautiful kai, you welcome, you acknowledge people strongly for who they are and what they bring to your community. So in that respect, Māori are, that's in your culture to do that, whether it's at your family, your house level, or whether it's at your community level, or in fact with the iwi. The other one is whairawa. So that's about how you build asset or resource. So previously Māori obviously had everything, the forest, the birds, the lands, the oceans, and so how do you accumulate in modern day wealth, asset, in order to provide for your people, because you're always providing distribution for your members. So some tribes have got 60,000, others have got 10,000 and less. So how do you create a future for them? So that's whairawa. You're in pursuit of something.
Yeah.
And the last one, kaitiaki, is looking after our environment. So how do we leave enough resource there to make enough resource to provide for your people? So rather than deplete natural resource, how do we sustain it for the future generations?
Sure. So like something like that kaitiaki, there's definitely overlap with way the corporates are thinking.
Yes.
How about, it's how do you see the sort of where are the biggest areas of I don't want to use the word conflict, but just where it hasn't gelled, between the Maori worldview around money and the way the banking world works? Because banks, I think, traditionally, I know that's changing, but have, it's fairly hardline world, right? It's balance sheets and accruing resources and debt and all this sort of stuff, which maybe wasn't part of the traditional Maori world.
Yeah, I think in terms of the traditional Maori world, you still had an economy, really.
Yeah.
So you had your lands, you fiercely defended it, and if you had the best lands that could produce food or resource which you could trade, that would be you'd defend it at all costs. Their lives depended on it. And
so it's not like there was a sort of a communist utopia across the whole country.
No. Like you almost had separate nations that were warring against each other. So it was very, having the best lands and the best resource really counted. That's how the traditional world worked. So how do we, as in the modern iwi economy, build up assets now in order to keep the survival of your tribe, because you want your tribe to remain etched forever in New Zealand history and its future.
Yeah.
So the banks take a very different approach where Māori land is communally owned. It's not individually owned. It's always harder if you need to retrieve some land, security off Māori. That view's always been kind of a dim kind of colonial view of asset accumulation or wealth. So it's about broaching that with the bank. How do we understand the Māori? They're very safe, very conservative. Yes, the land is owned multiple and share title, so by many thousands of people, but you do have strong governance, you have professional executive leadership now. Māori positions in the tribe are highly sought after, well paid. So, and there's a lot of equity, and there's a lot of security now in Māori. There's a lot of headroom that they've got. So,
a lot of money.
So it's about the bank understanding that kind of collective ownership model, and not seeing that as a risk. It's more of an advantage to me, because you've got a lot of headroom, a lot of unused land that Māori are prepared to develop now. So it's looking at it a bit differently.
Yeah, and in terms of horizons, do you think it would be fair to say that iwi tend to take a longer term view, because I guess that's been it's been something that I guess Pākehā sort of business world is kind of trying to get beyond ourselves, because like short term, longer term thinking is sort of creates more wealth in the long term, but that sort of it's also sometimes difficult for a bank to get around the idea that we're not going to realise this for this generation or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And there's a lot to learn in that. There's cultures all around, the successful cultures around the world and economies that have a long-term view. So Māori, we see our projection, our horizons is 50 to 100 years. So we're not on a high productive kind of return, 12-monthly return that a normal business would want to achieve. But we do make serious progress and perform, and still perform highly within the kind of the corporate economic world. So we still have a drive for profit, but we also want to take care of the planet and our people, whereas quite often a lot of commercial business is just not really about planet and people. It's more about just profit. So we've got to take those things into consideration when we're planning our futures for our people.
One of the regular questions I have is sort of like, I put it really basically, like why some people end up wealthy and some people end up poor. But and you look at some like Ngāti Whātua or Ngāi Tahu or whatever, but they're iwi doing very, very well. But then obviously there's a lot of poverty within the Maori world as well, Maori communities. Yeah. What do you think is the biggest I guess factor that is that sort of switch between progressing forward with money and resources or getting stuck in a poverty trap?
Yeah, it's a good question around financial literacy, about how you treat money, how you save, how you spend, how you plan for the future. So that's money's kind of only been introduced into the Māori world in the last 150 odd years. So it's very new.
Yeah.
And if you're not utilizing your money properly, then you're going to get into trouble with debt pretty quickly.
Yeah.
There's this kind of this education that needs to go on for Māori families, and that's part of our work at the bank and also at the tribe, is how do you plan for your future. So tribes now are taking an active role in teaching their people about saving, teaching their people about about budgeting, and also saving for the future. And then tribes are stepping in now to provide things like health insurance, like we do, providing homes. We're building homes. We've always had homes within Ngāti Whātua, Ngai Tahu, and other iwi, because they see that building kind of asset wealth is the future for their people and how to manage their money. So, yeah, it's interesting because the iwi wealth is about 20% of the full Māori wealth, so 80%'s out there in small, medium enterprise business. Māori need to, I'd encourage people to develop businesses, get out there, and in that way, though, that's where the real true grunt of the Māori economy is going to come from.
Yeah. So you're involved at kind of the macro level, which is the big Māori business, dealing with the banks, but also at that micro level with trying to promote financial literacy through the bank, I guess, is the
it's we have people that go out there and they teach families, marae, even boards, how to, because on Māori boards you have a lot of people that are elected there that have got strong, like me, education backgrounds or health or te reo cultural backgrounds, and not necessarily financial backgrounds.
That's right.
I've managed to combine both, and around how you look at finance, you look at commercial deals on the board. So there's that's what I see as a huge need out there, is those people that can. If we bring our kids up and our adults and teach them about financial literacy, we make better decisions as an iwi.
Yeah. And I guess even quite basic stuff like debt, compounding interest is a huge one, isn't it? Just getting people to understand how good that can be for you, or how bad it can be for you if you let the debt get out of control. Yeah,
it's kind of interesting for the Māori world, like. That debt can be, for tribes, debt's good for us. We need to
invest it and make more money.
That's right. So, and money's fairly cheap at the moment. When I first had my house, I think I was paying about 7 or 8% on my loan. Now it's it's very low. So, it's about understanding how debt can help you to accumulate wealth. So that's never been debt, and I'd say this would be for many Māori families, it's always they don't like debt. Even in our members don't like seeing our tribe borrowing money to make money, whereas it's it's an unusual equation for them.
I mean, a lot of people like that. I'm a bit like that. Even though I know all the theory, you feel a bit vulnerable when you got too much debt. Yeah,
because people see, like I remember when the 87 crash happened, and Dad was stressed out, so you see those moments, and the housing crash comes.
That's right, and interest rates were through the roof, so people's mortgages were very expensive.
Absolutely, and so things, you learn to live within your means, and when there's a crisis, so when people go through that, they're always a little bit conservative with their view. So I think that's every day. But those that embrace kind of asset wealth and being careful with your money, because my wife's the one who's really careful with the money. If it was me, I'd be spending as much as I could.
In a relationship. Do you think growing up with a Pākehā dad and a Māori mum, that you got a sense of two different sort of cultural ways of looking at money? I don't know what sort of heritage your father had, but
it's interesting.
I guess if he's classic English, Scottish, New Zealand.
Dad was pretty cheap. He's pretty frugal. I guess, you always hear the jokes that the Scots with short arms and long pockets, so that was kind of always floating around, and Mum was a bit more extravagant with money, so I got a really good kind of view on how you'd approach kind of how you manage your own money, or and the key one was education. If mum and dad were just pushing us to be educated within the school system, they knew that if we had the combination of a really strong education and a really strong Māoritanga, we could combine both to be to help us for our future, and it's panned out that way, which has been really good.
Because these things are kind of hand in hand, aren't they? I mean, on the one hand, we want to get more financial literacy and all that sort of stuff, but that understanding of your Maori culture, if you are Maori, the pushback around it all seems to be coming from a place where people don't understand how important that is to young people to know who they are and where they've come from.
Yeah, there's that saying, if you want to go forward, then look back in history and who you are, and in order to strengthen yourself as a complete human being. So yeah, we're very lucky that we've been brought up that way, understanding our tribal histories from when our tribe landed here in Aotearoa. So I think having that sense allows you to kind of talk to other cultures around the world too, around who you are, and I think that's a very powerful thing that New Zealand could harness, and we're in a very different time now, where people are valuing that a lot. So yeah, I think that's a key part of my identity, is having both, knowing my European side as well as my Māori side.
Yeah. So I guess I'm interested in what your next goals are for this role, and how, are you feeling optimistic that you can, that you or we can make a difference, and we've got a bit of a roll on with terms of progressing financial literacy within the Maori community?
Yeah, I guess I've had the advantage of being on boards and running businesses, and how difficult that is for Māori and tribes. And I've built 2 homes on Māori land, but the bank wouldn't lend on it because of their view on the Māori land. So we had to go to a different financial institution, or the tribe had to fund it, and the tribe became the bank. Now, I always thought that wasn't fair, because I earn a lot of, I earn really good wage, and I was saying with my wife, we've got low levels of debt. We're a safe bet. So what I'm trying to do with the bank is trying to increase that capital to Māori, so that they can build homes and they can have a great future. They can provide for their families, because when you're building on Māori land, you're only paying for the house. Yeah. You're not having to pay for the land. So your debt levels are low. And so if you've got a high income, then that's an easy, to me, that I think
it seems like a safe bet.
A safe bet, yeah.
So do you think, historically or traditionally, say the last few decades, it's sort of been a translation thing, like between the bank and the Maori groups?
Yeah, they couldn't understand really communally owned land, and how, even that we've got a lot of headroom at the iwi, they couldn't really get their head around it, that we could have to sell that house or sell that land. So yeah, my views about looking at improving access to capital for Māori. Yep. So for Māori households to build homes, access capital for the iwi, so that they can purchase new assets and drive economic success from an iwi way, because we've got a lot of vacant land, we've got a lot of resource out there that's untapped at the moment. My role is about connecting the bank to understand a Māori worldview on how, if you help and increase capital to Māori, their economic success will be part of that journey, because they've, as I said before, they've got strong governance, they've got amazing executive leadership, they've got they're actually contributing to your local community by providing education grants to people, they're planting trees, they're growing trees, they've got sports teams, they're all, once we understand that, I think then people will see Māori as a huge asset to the community. Yeah.
And if you could sort of flick a switch or something, if there was one sort of thing you could change out there that you think would make a huge difference, is there something you could, let's say you're in charge of the bank or the country, we'll leave it non-specific.
Yeah, I guess for me, that's a big question.
It is.
I always think if you positioned Māori well at the top table, then that would flow through your organisation.
Yep.
So if I had if I was a regulator or something, then I'd look to see, it's been great that we've had this diversity, and women have really stepped into massive roles on banks, on boards. So if you could we've got very sophisticated professional Māori directors out there. If that could be one where I'd impress upon people to take it to the top table for Māori to lead, that would make a huge difference and flow throughout the organisation.
Yeah. Have you kept up with the Reserve Bank's been working quite hard on this? They've got their Tāne Mahuta allegory, I guess, that they're using, and they're trying to make some changes there, which is kind of at the fundamental level. And it's they're copping some flack for it, I guess, from some sources. But
I think Adrian and their team should be commended for using them, for aligning their strategy to a Māori concept of Tāne Mahuta. It's and it's like a financial ecosystem almost that he's built. If the tree and the forest are strong, then it just keeps feeding itself, really. If the ecosystem is strong around business, and if BNZ or other businesses are strong with their financial ecosystem, and if the ecosystem's out of play, which New Zealand's financial system has been out of play with not including Māori in the economy, then it's not as strong as it should be.
Yeah.
So we just need to unleash and understand that Māori have a massive role to play in the future. We're in a growing population. They'll be your workforce of the future, and the more that they play their part and they are included in the financial ecosystem, the better it is for this country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess if you're looking at untapped, resource and where the country, has talk about low productivity, if there's an area that hasn't, that's where we can bring it to life and actually add value for the whole country, right? I mean, if there's one, a large sector that's underperformed for various reasons.
Yes. Yeah, and that comes back to about education, or unleashing and ensuring everybody's at their full potential to work or full potential to earn and contribute back to their local community. So, if that's ingrained in people to do that, I just think it's if that sector's untapped, then we need to understand why and how do we as a business play our part in order to reach their potential. And that's where, iwi is still underperforming in terms of their economic contribution to society, and banks are part of how we raise that economic success.
Well, I'm going to leave it there, Renata. I wish you all the best with that, with your mission, and I think look forward to hopefully seeing some strong results. So thanks for coming in. Thanks for talking.
Cheers. Thanks you. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thanks for listening. If you've got feedback, drop me a line at liam.dan@nzherald.co.nz. And if you want to hear more of these, please subscribe at iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts.